Okay, so cities and towns in the U.S. have seen a decline in Canadian visitors, and our next guest can speak to the impact. Rachel Labour is with Visit Rochester, and that's where she's joining us from, about an hour and a half east of the Canadian border. So, Rachel, tell us firsthand, how significant is the decline in Canadian visitors in Rochester?
Good evening. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. So we here in Rochester, New York, as you noted, we are just 90 minutes from the Canadian border, and we typically see anywhere from 15 to 20% of our total visitors, of which we estimate about, that's a total of 2 million people a year. So we take 15 to 20% of that. Are coming from Canada. So while it's still a little soon to have a lot of concrete data, we do know that anecdotally, some of our museum and attraction partners have definitely seen a softening of visitation. But even more so, we've heard the sentiment directly from visitors coming from Canada who say that the time is just not right and they're not ready to travel to the U.S.
And I'd like to hear what tourist attractions and small businesses in the community, what they're saying firsthand as well.
Yeah, so a city like Rochester that, by the way, is on the southern shore of Lake Ontario. So, when I tell people where I'm from, I say I live closer to Toronto than New York City, which can often be a surprise to people. But a place like Rochester, we have a really special relationship with our neighbors to the north and with Canadian travelers. So above all else, just knowing that there is a hesitation to travel, we feel that really on a personal level, because these are not just potential travelers, these are our neighbors and our friends. And so museums and attractions and experiences, they've definitely seen a slight decline. I should note that we are still seeing a slight uptick then of domestic travel here in the U.S. that helps balance that out. But regardless, we are really eager to just let our neighbors to the north, Canadian travelers, know that when you're ready, Rochester will be here. And that was really the impetus for a new campaign that we just launched in the Canadian market recently.
Yeah, I want to get into that campaign a little bit. Rachel, you guys issued a letter, quite the love letter, about how much you miss Canadians, how much you miss that sense of adventure that Canadians have. Really, you could hear in the words how much you want to woo these visitors back.
Absolutely. It was really important to us. We traditionally will have a full court marketing campaign for that busy summer travel season, but this year we knew, we could kind of read the climate, and we knew that, the time necessarily wasn't right for a hard sell. And in fact, a lot of destinations in the U.S. have stopped marketing as much in Canada. But for us, it was really important to remain present and top of mind with a strong message of you're welcome, whether that's tomorrow, a few months from now, a few years from now, whenever the time is right, Rochester, New York will be here and ready to welcome Canadian travelers with arms wide open. As I said, we have a very special relationship between a city like Rochester and Canada, specifically the Ontario province and around the Toronto area. And we've enjoyed many years of shared, really of friendship. And so whenever the time is right and people feel ready, we cannot wait to welcome our cross-border neighbors back to our community. But until then, we understand and we'll be waiting.
Yeah. And Rachel, it's really those two realities that Canadians are navigating, the one reality of the political tension and the reality that the two countries are neighbors with a lot of people, with friends and family on both sides of the border. I want to address a very real concern of Canadians, that fear of what they might experience at the border, what they might experience in the United States. How do you respond to those concerns?
Absolutely, yes. We've fielded inquiries from visitors with these concerns. So as far as at the border crossing, our message to travelers is, of course, we don't necessarily, as a tourism marketing agency, we don't necessarily have jurisdiction at the border, but we encourage travelers to review the guidelines as to making sure they have all the right documentation and all the proper credentials for any kind of border crossing. But what I can wholeheartedly assure your viewers is that if you come to Rochester, you will be welcomed, you will be safe, and really we miss our Canadian our visitors. And so that was why we wanted to write a love letter saying we see you, we miss you. So definitely review the latest border crossing guidelines and make sure that you have everything you need. But I can attest that once you're here in Rochester, you will be welcomed with big open arms because we have such a special relationship.
All right, message widely broadcasted and may be received by the Canadians watching right now. Rachel Labour with Visit Rochester. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. I hope to see everyone in Rochester soon.